Interwest is a retail independent insurance agency offering a full range of business and personal insurance products. We're very proud of our partnership with Allied Insurance, our alliance with public television, and thankful for the opportunity to serve our local communities.
Imagine a place where wildflowers carpet the earth.
Imagine a broad, expansive valley.
And having it full of elk and antelope, scattered with wetlands. You have waterfowl, ducks and geese, shorebirds.
It was the livelihood. It had everything we needed. We even had bears down here.
And then giant Columbian mammoths roaming through with huge tusks.
On either side, mountains rise up.
And the largest freshwater lake west of the Mississippi stretches out before you. These sights and sounds are mostly gone now, but echoes remain.
Floating along in the water world, they saw something like a bird's nest. Earthmaker said to Meadowlark, "It's very small. It would be good if it were bigger. I wonder how I might stretch it apart a little. What would be good to do? In what way can I make it a little bigger?" As he talked, he transformed it. He stretched it out to where the day breaks. He stretched it out to the south. He stretched it out to the place where the sun goes down. He stretched it out to the north country. He stretched it out to the rim of the world. When Earthmaker had stretched it out, he said, "Good. You who saw of this earth, this mud, and made this nest, sing. Telling old tales humans will say of you. In ancient times, the being who was Meadowlark, making the land and sticking it together in just that way, built the nest from which the world was made." Then Meadowlark sang a beautiful song about Earthmaker's creation. People would call it the basket world.
There are many stories of how California's Great Valley came to resemble the nest of the world. These murals are the work of artist Laura Cunningham, who specializes in capturing the lost valley of her imagination with paintbrush and palette. As a rare desert rainstorm blows through her Nevada ranch, a fragment of California's past takes shape in her mind's eye and begins the short journey to canvas.
The Sacramento River had really beautiful large woodlands with cottonwood and willow, and so I'm just trying to catch a mood of a rainy day that could be on the Sacramento River, perhaps in the past. I can use this as a little chunk of a bigger painting for a reconstruction of what Sacramento Valley might have been like 200 or 300 years ago.
Reconstructing the past is Laura Cunningham's passion. Her paintings reach back into California's distant past, into the vast gulf of time between the valley's geologic formation and the late Ice Age, when humans first appeared.
A million years ago to 10,000 years ago, you had the Central Valley looking like Africa. It must have been like the Serengeti. You had American lions, dire wolves, saber-toothed cats, dirk-toothed cats, and giant short-faced bears, which must have been the most incredible terrestrial predators on this continent ever.
And hovering nearby, patiently waiting their turn when the predators were sated, giant condors with 11-foot wingspans.
I think one fascinating thing about exploring our early California landscapes and painting them and photographing them and looking at them is we can learn to inhabit our homeland more deeply, our landscape, our beautiful California. We can get to know it better, know its past, and feel that we are truly at home and can take care of our land.
For thousands of years after the mammoths had come and gone, native Californians were the stewards of the land. Anthropologists believe that California was home to the largest concentration of Indians on the North American landmass. How many lived here? No one can say for certain.
You know, when the people have tried to estimate the population, they came up with 333,000. But in the meantime, additional information and research has put that on a higher level, and there was a projection, even at this early time, of 750,000.
Perhaps the largest groups of Indians thrived around a vast lake unknown to most Californians today, but the Yokut peoples knew it well. It was their life spring. They called it Ba'ashu. Later, it would be called Tulare Lake.
There was so much to eat there that for the native cultures who happened to live in that area, there was great abundance.
In the wettest years, Tulare Lake could be 100 miles long, 50 miles wide, and 40 feet deep in places. 5 rivers once fed this basin, making it the largest body of fresh water west of the Mississippi.
The tules, those wonderful rushes that are 15, 20 feet tall at some places, constituted a band as much as a mile wide in depth all the way around the lake. And then the rushes from the tules became boats. They became all sorts of things for the people who were there.
But by the 1930s, the rivers had been dammed and diverted for irrigation, and the basin was transformed into California's Cotton Bowl, as it still is. Today there are scant remnants of Tulare Lake, hidden patches of marshland that are kept intact for duck hunters. Alkali salts sit on the bare earth like dry snow. Waterfowl make their own wetlands in the irrigation ditches.
My people lived all around the lake. We had them in the north, south, east, and west of it, and we have different bands of the Yokut Nation what lived off the lake.
3 centuries ago, Tulare Lake may have been the hub of Indian civilization in California. These days, the Tachi Yokut derive their sustenance from other sources. But the tribal elders haven't forgotten what Tulare Lake meant to their people. And even now, when they return to the site, they honor it with ceremonies passed down through generations. Clarence Atwell is chief and medicine man of the remaining Tachi Yokut people.
This is our mother, the earth, provided us with the water, our food, our minerals, and all these other things that we need, So when you take something, you give it back. All this place is really considered one of our sacred sites.
This spiritual connection to the land has been a dominant theme in Frank Lapina's art for the past 40 years.
We have been here long enough that we know how to respect and love and live with the land. It allows you now to have a vested interest in preserving and maintaining, but it also allows you to tap back into time without end, because you were created here.
Hey na konono, hey na konono, hey na konono, hey na konono.
There is little left of Tulare Lake to remind us of its former grandeur. But throughout California, there are clues to the lives led by the first Californians. Native elders say their people have always been here. But what does always mean? Some of the oldest clues are in the foothill town of Roseville at the Maidu Interpretive Center. These rocks stand a mysterious vigil across time. They are petroglyphs, stone carvings created by people who occupied this place thousands of years ago. Chuck Critson has devoted more than a decade to the study of primitive cultures in this area and has even mastered some of their life skills, like cleaving obsidian to make arrow points, razor sharp right off the stone. He has also studied the strange designs on these rocks, some of the oldest physical evidence of human activity in the valley.
We know that the Maidu lived here, but these petroglyphs probably predate them. There'd be, dozens and dozens possibly of different groups that came through here and lived for maybe 50 years, sometimes 1,000 years. We don't know. Here at this site, we know there's people here, probably 5,000 to 6,000 years ago.
Modern aficionados of ancient rock art have named this petroglyph the Tree of Life, but no one knows what it really means, or who made it, or why.
The meaning of the petroglyphs is a real mystery. There are a lot of theories out there. Some people believe they are representations of a shaman's journey into the spirit world. Some people believe they're maps showing the location of different things, river courses like the ones we have here with several squiggly lines. To be honest though, we really don't know.
The Roseville site is one of several places in California where rock art and carvings offer a tangible, if baffling, connection with the region's earliest occupants. Chuck Critson finds ample meaning in that.
We aren't the first Californians, and even the Maidu people who were here weren't the first ones. There were people here, like I said, 5,000 or 6,000 years ago, and this is their mark. That they have left their legacy that has lasted this long is truly remarkable. These are monuments, really. These are our monuments to ancient peoples, and for us to be able to enjoy it, and even if we don't understand it or really know what it means, just the fact that it's still here and that we have that connection, that is just so amazing.
No animal has captured the human imagination quite like the California grizzly bear. Scientists estimate that at one time, there may have been 100,000 grizzlies throughout the American West, perhaps 10,000 in California alone. That would be about one bear for every dozen Indians. But no one really knows for sure how many of either were here before 1800.
The grizzlies were probably the most extraordinary animals in the valley, and I've been told by zoologists that at one point you had the same sort of concentration that we today see in Alaska.
What is known is that bears were common in places it's hard to imagine now. This is the Carquinez Strait, where the Sacramento River joins San Pablo Bay. Today it's an area teeming with human activity, cut through with shipping lanes, girdled by railroads and freeways. But down by the river's edge, a few tules still hang on, and it was here that grizzlies once foraged. Susan Snyder, who has compiled a history of the man-bear relationship in California, says that when stern-wheel steamers plied these waters, grizzlies were seen to swim across the Carquinez Strait, a sight to which Indians would have been long accustomed.
It's believed that they grew bigger than the grizzlies in the Rocky Mountains because they didn't have to hibernate over the winter, so that they weren't forced to recoup that lost body weight every year. They also had clover and seafood, acorns, all seasons, and so they had a year-round food supply, which was great. This was paradise.
It was a paradise shared. Most people today think of the grizzly as a mountain animal, but it was the bountiful river valleys that attracted both bears and people.
The rivers like the San Joaquin would be full of their roaring as they competed for salmon, and of course the salmon were thick in all of those rivers that drain to the bay. There's a report of Jedediah Smith of seeing 17 in one place.
I don't want to use the word mystical, but I think there is something that has throughout the ages attracted the two species to each other.
Some native Californians believe they were directly descended from grizzlies, who one time walked upright and spoke.
I think the grizzly is greatly misunderstood and continues to be misunderstood. The grizzlies weren't necessarily all ferocious and slavering, green-eyed demons. They were just animals like us.
The first California grizzly felled by a rifle was killed in 1769 by Spanish explorers who had ventured away from the coast. The event was recorded near what is now the town of Los Osos, the Bears.
There was a great competition for the land, and the grizzlies lost the war.
Almost from the moment that European settlers arrived with their technology and their guns, things began to change rapidly in California, and the fate of the grizzly was sealed.
It's mind-boggling that the grizzlies were in California for 1 million years, and then they were gone in 60. Annihilated within little more than the lifespan of a single bear. It's utterly terrifying.
Where Indians had negotiated a respectful, if uneasy, coexistence with the grizzly, the new wave of trappers, ranchers, and miners considered the bears a deadly nuisance.
And with the advent of the repeating rifle and the huge influx of people during the gold rush, the grizzly didn't stand a chance.
As early as 1870, grizzly bear sightings were already rare in California. Within another few decades, there would be none. The grizzly bear disappeared from California, as one writer put it shortly after its extinction, left at the mercy of men with no mercy.
I would call it, in hindsight, particularly brutal, the eradication of the grizzly. People fear what they don't understand what they fear.
The California grizzly became the official state symbol in 1953, nearly a half-century after the last verifiable bear was killed.
There's something very intriguing and almost mesmerizing about grizzlies. It's very interesting that we've resurrected this animal in a way that we can live with it. And in a way that's wonderful, but in another way it's very sad.
The grizzly is gone, but some of California's most inspiring big mammals still retain their tenuous grasp on the landscape. They can be hard to spot now, but 200 years ago, the Central Valley was literally overrun with tule elk and pronghorn antelope. Scientists estimate that there may have been 500,000 of each species.
Take the Central Valley coming over on the foothills or something and seeing, herd of, 10,000, 15,000 tule elk spread throughout that, just grazing, and following the green groceries as the water receded. Must have been a magnificent view.
Tule elk are California's caribou. Though they are sometimes called dwarf elk, these majestic animals can reach 800 pounds and can run long distances at sustained speeds of nearly 30 miles an hour. Pronghorn antelope are the fastest land animal in North America. But neither animal was swift enough to elude bullets or the gradual encroachment of farms and ranches on their habitat. By the 1880s, the tule elk were all but wiped out in California. The population actually may have been reduced to one mating pair. Today, wildlife managers consider 100 elk to be a healthy herd. Where they find them is not often somewhere convenient for modern human development or safe for the animals. When that happens, Hobbs' team has no choice but to find them a new home. In this operation in 2001, Fish and Game officials rounded up about 24 elk from the San Luis National Wildlife Area. In this case, the herd had outgrown the 750-acre enclosed grounds, so wildlife managers relocated some of them farther north. To subdue the elk, game wardens fire nets from helicopters.
They're still kicking around, but we were able to restrain them, put an eye cover on. They calmed down pretty good.
Then they carefully transport the animals to a temporary base where they take measurements.
We have this marked as a calf, right? Neck circumference should be 46.
Assess the animal's health and tag them for future study. Once the elk are ready to go, trucks carry them to the new location, often on private lands.
Elk compete directly with cattle for many of the resources. You know, they're very similar. Elk in agriculture, probably not always a good thing. There's a conflict there. And so working with the different landowners, you know, we come up with kind of a compromise.
By finding common ground with ranchers, both the elk and antelope have been given a fighting chance to live and multiply in a state with 5 million head of cattle and nearly 40 million people.
Especially for the Tule elk, it's the only place in the world that they're found is here in California. And to rebound now to a population of over 3,800 and 22 different herds is a wildlife success story. You know, people can really see elk and say, well, there are still wild places in California. It's just not all cities. I think that makes people feel better, makes me feel better to know that it actually exists within California.
For centuries, the plants and animals of the Central Valley had a symbiotic relationship. Under the gentle grazing of elk and antelope, native bunch grasses flourished, and in the spring, wildflowers lent carpets of color to the oak savanna. Certain corners of California offer glimpses of this world. This is one of them, Bear Valley, north of Cache Creek. Today, cattle graze instead of elk, but the native grasses and wildflowers endure. That's what beckons to Karen Weezy, who roams the rolling grasslands here in search of native flowers.
Wow, here's a classic California Central Valley wildflower. Purple owl's clover. The little white-tipped flower is supposed to resemble an owl. It kind of takes a little imagination, but there it is.
Wildflowers splashed color onto the pages of the personal accounts of early explorers and settlers in the valley. A century after the first Spanish explorers, naturalist John Muir would write,
"When I walked, more than 100 flowers touched my feet, at every step closing above them, as if wading in water. Go where I would, east or west, north or south, I still splashed and rippled in flower gems."
The natural garden that Muir described was 400 miles long and 30 miles wide. In other words, the entire Great Valley. Today, naturalists need to look a little harder.
I think that Bear Valley is a narrow little window onto the past. There's a lot of native grasses, and because there's been so little agriculture and relatively light grazing, you see a lot of remnant populations of native grasses and wildflowers.
By studying the carpet remnants of native flowers and grasses, botanists like Weezy have been able to reconstruct a plant profile of early California and learn why many native plants have been marginalized.
There's also the loss of native invertebrates, invertebrate wildlife. Many of the species, animal species, are adapted for the plants, the native plants that you see. So once you start to unravel part of this incredible web of all of us intricately pieced together, you start to lose one component and it unravels the web.
The Central Valley's web of life is complex, but this complexity and all its apparent contradictions make it a natural resource unique in the world.
There's so much to the valley. We've got the incredible riparian system, the rivers, we've got the remnants of the prairies, some of the alkali sinks. The Central Valley of California is a very diverse area. When you find those native remnants of what California probably looked like, it's like finding a buried treasure. It's fantastic.
In California, we had all these worlds. They were all different. There was a desert, there was an ocean, there was the valleys and the foothills. It was always here, and it still is here. And we need to understand that.
To order a DVD copy of this program, call 888-814-3923 or visit kvie.org/viewfinder.
Interwest is a retail independent insurance agency offering a full range of business and personal insurance products. We're very proud of our partnership with Allied Insurance, our alliance with public television, and thankful for the opportunity to serve our local communities.